Hello, friends and Fannibal Family, and welcome to the Deconstructing Hannibal podcast, where we take the show apart piece by piece. This is Sahaya. I know that I look like Roddy Piper, and they live. For those of you, those of you watching, those of you that are listening, you are like, I have no idea what she's talking about. I'm currently wearing a pair of sunglasses because just a couple days ago I had cataract surgery. You're too young for cataracts. I know, it's genetics. Anyway, and so this eye, my right eye, is still really icky, and I didn't want to gross anybody out. So I am here to chew bubble gum and talk about Hannibal, and I'm all about out of bubble gum. All right, so today I am so excited to have one of my best friends from the fandom as my guest today. She is a new guest for me here on the podcast, and I am going to let her introduce herself. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am out of a spell. My name is Natasha. I am known under many names for many different reasons, and no, I'm not hiding from the law. um, I've been in a fandom. Was brought in graciously by Ro in 2022, and then hopped over to Twitter in 2023. So I was late in that. I watched a show when it was live, and I wish I would have known that there were that many people out there that had such a huge welcoming fandom to walk into, because I feel at home with everyone, which is something I haven't felt since I went into my first goth club as a teenager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you heard it here. The Hannibal fandom is like a goth club.
Yeah, it's extended family, you
Mhm.
know. Going into a goth club as a lost teen and hearing music that I had been listening to for years, and seeing people that were really cool, and like the same things. It was a refreshing thing. So yeah, that's how I feel about the
Yeah.
fandom.
No, absolutely. It's like when you find your people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta ask you, Natasha, the same question I ask all of my guests. How did you first meet Hannibal Lecter?
That's a good question. As far as first impressions, as far as what really drew me to him.
No, like the first time you ever saw, like what was your first experience? What movie was it?
Okay.
Book, TV show? When did
Um,
you first?
I went to
Mhm.
see, I gotcha. I went to see Silence of the Lambs in the theater.
Mhm.
And it blew my mind. It scared the hell out of me, but it blew my mind. And I was like, ooh, he's very sinister, but at the same time, he's extremely smart,
Mhm.
and really knows how to play a chessboard. I was very drawn to him. His mind, the stuff that he could retain. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, that was my first impression of him, and he came across as being a very knowledgeable and sensual man, and I'm not talking just like sex, it's just like everything, like
Mhm.
all across the board.
Yeah.
Um, but he was also so dangerous, like past the point of a normal danger. Like, okay, this is serious trouble in the works. No matter what he's thinking, it's like, okay. And it's
Mhm.
that's my first impressions of him. Okay, he's very smart, but it goes a lot further than that. And of course, the
Mhm.
more exposed I was to the character, the deeper I got drawn in by him.
Mhm.
I felt mesmerized. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel about it. So, I mean,
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
oh, it's okay. I was sort of pausing too. This is my first podcast, by the way. Um, so yeah, I saw it in the theater, and then I went and saw it again, and then I saw it again, and then I went out and bought books
Mhm.
and read them. And I watched the films. Some things I probably could have gone without seeing at the time. I was into horror, but different types of horror.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily need to see Ray Liotta eating pieces of his own brain. I was like, oh God. But yeah,
Yeah, that
I
was
knew it was going to go there.
well, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. So they did well. And I remember when I first saw the ads pop up for Hannibal on NBC, I was like, what's this about?
Mhm.
I wasn't gatekeeping, so to say, but I was like, okay, what's this? And then it was funny because I recognized Mass.
Oh.
Um, so it was like, I got to check this out. And it wasn't just,
Yeah.
ooh, I want to look at someone. It was, I need to check this out because I knew he was a really great actor. So,
Right.
um, hooked, absolutely hooked.
Right.
And my mom binged on it with me a
Mhm.
few times, which tickles me. Um,
That is tickling. I don't know if my mother would not like it.
no,
No, it's not up her alley at all. But
y-
I've gotten my brother started on it, and we watched
mhm,
Aperitif, and after we had some discussion about, like, I'm like, "You can't think about that, you gotta let those things go," right?
yeah,
Like, you know, you have to suspend disbelief, or it
yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah, that's true. You
Mhm.
can't, if you crop yourself into one dark part of it, you're really not going to move past that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's sort of like, to me, it's like one big dreamscape that just
It
keeps
is.
evolving.
It is. I was reading an interview with Bryan from back when the series was going on, and he was talking about how certain points of when they were writing the scripts and they were, coming up with the set design and they were looking for the locations and whatever, that sometimes they would refer to what they were doing at the time as Cronenbergian, or
Hmm.
sometimes they would refer to what they were doing as Lynchian, right? And
Yeah.
so it's like if you have both of those in mind, then it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And the Lynchian to me is the one that stands out a little bit more than the Cronenbergian. But I mean, it's definitely Mads always calls it a heightened reality. He said the same thing about Dust Bunny, that Dust Bunny was in a heightened reality.
That's
I
true.
kind of say that it's like magical realism in that there are things that happen that kind of break the rules of reality, but it's not completely surreal where there is no reality. You know what I mean? It's just that every once in a while there's something that you're like, wait, is somebody dreaming this right now? Is
Is
this
it really
somebody hallucinating this right
hmm
now? Is this really happening? And is this just for artistic effect? Right.
Is it a
And so-
flashback?
right.
Did the person
Yeah.
die? There's certain films out there like that
Mhm,
I had to watch actually over and over again. And
mhm,
still, when I got to the end of it, I went, okay, I still don't know which way this was supposed to go.
mhm.
Um, Not to bring other things up besides Hannibal, but one of them that I referred to is Jacob's Ladder,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
because I couldn't
Yeah.
tell if he was dying and those were the last things that were flashing through his mind, if it was stuff that was
Mhm,
actually happening, if it was, it
mhm.
was really messed up.
Right.
But there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I like the
Or like
surrealistic.
Angel Heart,
Oh,
like
oh,
Angel Heart,
ooh, yeah.
where
Mom did not like that one. Got to
oh,
the
I
end of
wonder
it and
why.
she was like, ah, I pretty much reacted like that too. Mm,
Well, let's go ahead and get started talking about the topic of this episode, which is Hannigram in season 2, and Natasha and I will be talking specifically about Hannigram in season 2B, what I call season 2B, which is episodes 8 through 13. Okay. I discussed episodes 1 through 7 with my guest Mihash in the last episode. And just like episodes 1 through 7, I have a mnemonic device for episodes 8 through 13 in season 2B to help me remember the names of the episodes in order. So for season 2A, it was killing such hateful twats must feel yummy. For season 2B, what we're discussing today, I came up with sweet secrets never kill true manhunters. Okay. So
Oh.
sweet secrets. So sweet is Su-zakana, secrets is Shiizakana, never is Naka-choko, kill is Konomono, true is Tome-wan, and manhunters is Mizumono. Okay, so that's how
Aren't
I
you
keep them.
crafty? That's awesome.
That's how I keep them straight in my mind. So, before we get started talking about sort of episode by episode, I just wanted to ask you, Natasha. I expressed my feelings about season 2 just in general in the last episode with Mihash, but I wanted to ask you with regards to, season 1, 2, 3. What are your feelings, your feelings in general about season 2?
Compared to the first season, it spirals to a very, very dark place
Mm-hmm.
as far as I don't know if it's the proper term that I'd use for what Hannibal's doing with Will besides the cat and mouse, but it's like he's grooming him to a certain extent to not just ease into the darkness, he's pulling him down. And
Mm-hmm.
to his level of insane, the way I look at
Mm-hmm.
it, and he's loving it,
Mm-hmm.
and Will doesn't necessarily look like he's loving it that much in a lot of it, but at the same time, he does. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have this in my brain. It's sitting there dormant, and guess what? I'm going to take a ride with it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
he goes darker at some points than Hannibal actually expected him to,
Right.
which is
Yes,
just it. He
he
really, some of the looks I see, or just the way he'll slowly speak a sentence out and just deadpan stare at him like, sneert. He's looking at him. Yeah, it's like, you think that's dark? Well, check this out, mister. So
Right.
it's definitely it goes to a very dark place, and I love it.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about starting with season 2, episode 8, which is Su-zakana. This is the episode where we meet Peter Bernardone, played wonderfully by Jeremy Davies, who we all in the
Yay.
fandom love. Yay. I,
Yes.
I, I doubt, I don't know if Jeremy would ever be listening, but if Jeremy was ever listening, we love you, Jeremy.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so Su-zakana, we see, and I'm mainly talking about the Hannigram scenes, but we get
Hmm.
to the point in season 2 where there's so much going on with Hannigram on the surface that other people are witnessing, that very often you have to talk about other scenes with other people. So for example, we start the episode with with Jack and Will fishing, and they're doing that ice fishing, and they're
Hmm.
having that sort of very deep, sexy fishing conversation where Hannibal is like, excuse me, not Hannibal, where Will is
Well.
like, you have to create a reality where just you and the fish exist, and you have to make it to where the fish wants your lore more than anything else, etc. And obviously talking about him catching Hannibal again,
Hmm.
right? And so we start off like, because in the last episode is where Will is released from prison, and
Hmm.
we have him going to Hannibal, and I'd like to resume my therapy. And so then here we see this sort of planning, and one of the metaphors that we see going through the rest of the season, which is that Will is fishing, and that he's fishing for Hannibal, and he's doing it by, he says he wants to create a reality where only he and the fish exist, which is kind of isolate Hannibal with him, because throughout the season that's what Hannibal is doing to Will, is that he's further isolating him
Hmm.
away from other people that would help him until it's just the two of them, right?
Yeah.
So then we have the dinner where we have Hannibal, Will, and Jack. And this is the dinner where they where Hannibal makes the Nietzschean fish comment. I find the trout to be a very Nietzschean fish, and Will says that it was his turn to provide the meat and
Meat.
everything.
With the emphasis on that meat, you know.
Meat, right? Yeah, it's more of this, and this entire scene I made in my notes is just on the edge of camp because they're all talking about how, you know, Will's like, I tried to kill Hannibal, but you misunderstood who he was at the point, and we've all done damage to each other, and etc. And it's sort of this idea of like everybody sitting at this table knows what's going on here. Hannibal doesn't quite know yet that they're purposely deceiving him, but
Mhm.
just the discussion here is so like fraught with like tension and performativity, you know what I mean?
It really, really is.
Mm,
Like, you could feel it, you could see it, and you could feel it hanging in the air, you
right.
know?
Yeah,
It's enough to make me anxious when I see it, and I'm just like, because it's
right,
like, it's almost like they have this safety net around each person, but they're pushing each one's, trying to think of the best way to describe it. They're pushing buttons without coming directly out and saying why they're pushing it,
right,
just to see how far they can push each other. I know that sounds
right.
really redundant, but it's a game of tag. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna say this to you, and
Mhm.
who you got to get next? Well, I'm gonna say this to you,
Right.
Jack. Well, Hannibal, just back and forth, and then they're
Mhm.
slowly eating, and it's like, okay, I
Yeah.
feel safer watching it from where I am.
Totally, totally. Um, and Hannibal makes a point to say here that it's important that they sort of all stay together in this sort of thing because the only people who know what they have experienced are the three of them. The only people who can understand what they've put each other through are the three of them, right? The
Hmm.
only person who can understand what I did to you is you and me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um So then we see later on in the episode, of course, at this point, Alana and Hannibal have already started their sexual relationship. We
Hmm.
see Alana talking to Hannibal about it, and she's clearly weirded out by the fact that Hannibal has started his therapy with Will again.
Hmm.
Not that he cares; he pretty much dismisses her questioning about that.
Oh yeah.
Um, Later in the episode, we see Hannigram. They're in therapy, so they're in Hannibal's office, and Will warns Hannibal. They're talking about and Hannibal starts to lie, and Will warns him, "Don't lie to me. Like you know, I don't have to lie. I know that you can't admit to anything, but don't lie to me, right?
Yeah.
I would prefer sins of omission than just outright lies."
Hmm.
And then we get to the part of the conversation where he asks Will, "Do you fantasize about killing me?" And Will says, "Yes."
Yes.
And Hannibal says, "How would you do it?" And Will says, "With my hands." And I'm sorry, but I am almost 100% positive that Hannibal pops a boner when Will says
110%.
that.
Absolutely. The look on his face, he's just like, ooh.
Tell me more.
His feathers went up, like a rooster that's just, ooh,
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 really?
you know. Yeah, his crest came up. That sticks out in my head almost more than anything else. That whole episode is just, you see just everything light up, and he's just like, oh, oh, I got him. He wants to put his hands on me. It could
Mhm.
symbolize so many different things. Kill me with your
Right,
hands, bring it on.
right,
Because
yeah,
he wouldn't go down easy, or would he?
no. Yeah, and he's like And he's like, "Well, are you gonna try to kill me again?" And he's like, "No, not that I finally find you interesting, right?" And so it's like Will is starting to fish and he's throwing out that lure and he knows exactly what it is that Hannibal wants to talk about, wants to hear, and that's violence. It's violence and murder. And it's so many of these conversations that Will and Hannibal start having because they start having conversations like this, not quite this pointed, but in this very coded language in front of other people. And
Mhm.
it's generally I generally call them porny conversations, like they're having another porny conversation in front of
Yeah,
people.
it's
Will
true.
it is true. Will
Mhm.
finally has the upper hand in this relationship. Finally, after he's gotten out of prison and
Just
he's
froze for a
restarted the
second.
therapy and he starts combing his hair, he has the
Okay.
upper hand in this relationship because Hannibal's curiosity and desire to be in Will's life is greater than his need to protect himself, right?
Mhm.
And so, because somewhere in Hannibal's mind, he's got to be like, this is dangerous because Will could be playing me. Like, Will could
Oh,
be
yeah.
reporting on me back to Jack and whatever. But he's finally decided that it's more, or I don't even know that it's decided, he's pulled in so much more by the temptation of being in Will's life, Will letting him into his mind and into his life more, and feeling that curiosity and that desire and having it actually like having like free reign and full access to Will, that it's like he takes a chance. He's like, just like anybody does when they're falling in love, like this person
Yeah.
could completely crush me, but I'm too much into this person. I'm gonna take the chance, right? You
Yeah,
know?
he throws the possibility of, all the bad repercussions that could and probably would, catch up with them because he's like, "Okay, things are finally going the way I want them to,"
Mhm.
which deep down inside, there's probably that tiny little smidgen where he's questioning it, and then the rest of it, he's like, it's out the window. He's like, "The hell with it. I'm going for it."
Mhm.
He's not worried about going to prison. He's not worried about someone else killing him. He's just like, "Will,
Yeah,
Will is in the picture, and that's where I wanna be."
exactly. Yeah. He did everything he could to get him out of prison, and now he's out of prison, so he's gonna take advantage of this.
Yeah.
Um, the relationship between Peter, Bernardone and Clark Ingram, his social worker in this episode, is
Mhm,
supposed to parallel the relationship between Will and Hannibal.
mhm,
Um, we see Will saying, and I've actually got this quote over here. We see Will saying to Peter, he says, "Do you have a shadow, Peter? Someone only you can see. He's someone you considered a friend. He made you feel you weren't alone until you saw what he really is, and it made you feel even lonelier," right? And so we have this circumstance of he's talking to Peter about Peter's circumstance with Clark Ingram, but obviously he's also talking about himself in Hannibal, right?
mhm,
Um, we even see that after they bring Clark Ingram in to interrogate him, on the other side of the two-way mirror, Alana's talking to Ingram, and on the other side of the two-way mirror, we've got Jack, Will, and Hannibal watching the interrogation. And Will says to Jack, he says, Peter Bernardone is psychologically disadvantaged. He's been manipulated. As his social worker, this man is in a position of trust. He betrayed that trust. I know what it's like to point at a killer and have no one listen. And Jack says, "You pointed in the wrong direction." Jack leaves the room, and then there's just this sort of uncomfortable silence between Will and Hannibal. But he's basically making a point that just like he was, Peter is in this psychologically disadvantaged circumstance. Peter, because of his head injury, Will was because of his encephalitis.
mhm.
And Clark Ingram, who is supposed to be an advocate for this person, for Peter, takes advantage of him basically in the same way that Hannibal took advantage of him. So, this is another circumstance where you have where Will and Hannibal are talking to each other in front of other
Other
people,
people.
and the other people don't know that they're talking to each other. And I said this to Mihash in the last episode about, like in Queer for Fear and stuff, where Bryan and his guests on on that documentary were talking about the coded language and the coded storylines and the coded characters that were
Mhm.
used in movies and TV shows, especially starting during the Hays Code, but all through that in horror that was supposed to be sort of coding it like queer relationships and queer characters sort of hidden and coded and whatever in a
Mhm.
way that queer people watching the show or the TV or the movie would see
And
that this is
identify.
a yeah, and identify,
Mhm.
whereas like go over the straight people's heads, right?
Yeah.
um so this is, I think, very similar to that, this conversation that we see have that's being had between Will and Hannibal through season 2, where they're talking to each other about each other, and the people around them are like zing zing.
Yeah, it's not even touching down. Yeah, I agree. It's it's just I've seen very I've had a couple of very straight edge friends, believe it or not. Nothing against them. I'm not going to bash them, but um, they pretty much just look at the face value of things, and they totally didn't get the show. And I'm like, it's not meant for you. Then is what I said to them because they really didn't get anything. And I'm like, to me, it was very obvious. Like once it started building up, and I was like, okay, I can see where this is going. You know,
I
um,
think it was, I mean, I'm not personally queer. I'm unfortunately a straight woman, non-practicing, but
no shame.
but
Mm-mm.
it was pretty obvious to me from aperitif, like the sort of relationship that was building between Will and Hannibal. But I think a lot of the reason that I was able to identify that so quickly is from my experience with literature and just being an
Mm-hmm.
English major. And I mean, all the things that I teach, it's right there. Like it's right there in Frankenstein and it's right there in
That's
Hamlet or
true.
whatever. It's like,
That's true.
listen, yeah, it's like in a perfect world, Hamlet and Horatio would run away together and all these people could just fucking deal with themselves, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So um but yeah, so Hannibal and Will are sort of having this coded relationship throughout the show. Um we see in this episode they drive out to Peter's house. Hannibal's driving as they're driving. Hannibal is telling him, Will, you're not. Will says he's alone and in the darkness, and Hannibal says, "No, you're not alone. I'm standing right next to you." They go and see Peter. They find Peter putting Clark Ingram in the horse. Will pulls Peter aside, and he's talking to him about how Peter feels about Ingram, and Peter says that he hates him, and Will says, "I envy you your hate," right? Um, and Peter says, "Why?" And he says, "Because it would make it easy. It would make it easier." So we see that Will is admitting to Peter, and this is clearly not for Hannibal. So a certain amount of this has to be Will's real feelings,
Mhm.
that he can't bring himself to hate Hannibal, even after everything that Hannibal has done. Even at this point, thinking that he's killed Abigail, he's killed Beverly Katz,
Mhm.
he still can't hate him, right? And he envies Peter that hate. Then we get back into the barn and we see Clark Ingram coming out of the horse and the such your social worker in that horse. And we have the whole chrysalis moment. Will goes to shoot Clark Ingram. Hannibal stops him by putting his hand in between the hammer of the gun and the gun, which hurts like a bitch, by the
Yeah.
way. Gets his hand in between, magically between those things, and then we have the whole chrysalis speech. And I have a visual for us to look at here. I was looking the other day and I have a meme of this where someone has drawn a heart shape
Uh-huh.
around them here,
Mhm.
and I think I read somewhere that I can't remember the director on this episode, that it was planned that way, the way that they were staged, that would so that they would look
It
like they
would look
were in
like a heart.
a heart
Mhm.
shape. And of course Hannibal says to, now this quote is originally from Harris's book Hannibal, and Hannibal originally says this to Clarice. There's a lot of dialogue in the show that Hannibal says to Will that actually from the Harris canon Hannibal is saying to Clarice. But he says here, with all my knowledge and intrusion, I could never entirely predict you. I can feed the caterpillar, whisper through the chrysalis, but what hatches follows its own nature and is beyond me. And this is kind of where we end the episode. But you
Mhm.
see in this scene just nothing but pride
Yeah,
on Hannibal's face.
it's
Even though
true.
he stops Will from killing Clark Ingram, he looks very proud
He
of
does.
Will here. What do you
He
think
does.
about this?
Um, I do see him as being extremely proud. Um, and it's probably something else that's on his little checkbox. Um, mission accomplished. He wanted to get it to a certain point, and Will's at that point.
Mhm.
Um, and it's, I think about all the dynamics in it, and I don't want to backtrack into the episode, but we're talking about um, sitting there talking with Peter, and Peter to me was, he was very childlike,
Mhm.
which when you're a kid, you don't know how to express your emotions as well as an adult, obviously. So you could hate or what you think is hate.
Right.
Um, I identify a lot with Will because I consider myself an empath,
Mhm.
and empathy disorders can get you in a lot of shit. I mean, they really, it's you sort of go back and okay, well maybe I could change this, and well maybe if the person's going to do this, or maybe if I go this way that it won't happen again. You keep giving those chances, and
Mhm.
even still I don't like the term hate. Um,
I don't either. I was raised that hate was like a bad word. Like we weren't allowed in my house to say that we hated anyone. The only person
mhm,
mom would allow us to say that we hated was Hitler.
yeah.
She has since added Trump to the list.
Mhm.
But
Uh,
that's those are the only two people that we are in my family by my mom's allowed to say, because my mom was always like, hate, if you say you hate someone, then that means you wish them dead, that you want them to be hurt. You know what I mean? So
I
to
I
her, hate was an active thing, you know.
I actually had it broken down to me, and when she told me, she's like, "I probably shouldn't talk to you about stuff like this." It was actually a psychiatrist that I saw when I left
Mhm.
my ex-husband, and she told me that there were 2 words that were very powerful, and one was hate and one was detest.
Mm.
And she said that if I were to say that I hated someone, even if it's hate and anger, it's still some form of emotional attachment to that
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
When you detest someone, you don't care if they exist or not. You're not
Right.
necessarily wishing death on them, but you don't care if they die.
Right.
And it put me in a different place with it. So a lot of times I don't even use the term hate.
Mhm.
If someone really gets to me that bad, I'm like, I detest them, such as Trump. I don't have to
Mhm.
wish bad on things.
Right.
My intrusive thoughts, I don't have to put out there either.
Right. Yeah,
I'll be
because I mean,
crawling in.
ultimately, it feels bad to wish bad things on people. You know, I don't
Hmm.
like wishing bad things on people because it feels bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's why part of in this episode, the point at which Peter has come to is so horrific because he is not that kind of person. He is such an empathic, just like Will, such an
Yep.
empathic and kind person that to for Clark Ingram to have brought him to this point, that's why Will
Ugh.
says to him, you know, yes, he deserves to die, but you didn't deserve to kill him. Meaning,
Yeah.
like,
It
you
should have never
shouldn't have
gotten
to
this
be.
far.
You shouldn't have to be going through this. Just like
Yeah.
Will shouldn't have to be going through a lot of the things that he has been put through because everybody knows how sensitive he is. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, it's like, can you please leave my man's alone? I mean, that's
Yeah.
why Will is my character that I most empathize with as well
Hmm.
because because I'm an empathic person too, and it has gotten me a lot of trouble too.
Yeah. 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 And I see them, and it makes me hurt inside,
Mhm.
because I'm like, and of course, we're both over 25. So we've had some hurt in our lives, and we
Yeah.
know what it's like to be pushed. I know what it's like to be pushed to the point of where it was almost foobarred. I was almost completely fucked up beyond recognition. And I always
Right.
say, you could take the sweetest kitten and put it in the corner, but you
Hmm.
keep poking your finger at it, and eventually it's going to start scratching and it's going to start biting.
Right.
It's going to
Right.
go octopus razor blades like in 1 second, just, you know. It's not going to always stay that nice kitten if you keep doing that to it. And
Right.
I watch Will get darker and darker because he's constantly getting pushed and manipulated because Hannibal's trying to herd him a certain way, and
Right.
okay, I'm giving you an option of these paths, but I really want you to go down this one,
Right.
and
That's
I
that's
see him just getting broken down little piece by piece, and I'm just like, "Oh."
that's why I think that the person who actually truly cares most about Will and cares most about Will based on who he is Alana, because she's basically just like, I just want you all to leave him alone.
Yeah.
Like, he might not have a rich, fulfilling life, just him and the dogs,
Mhm.
but it's better than what's going on here because everybody's fucking with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he's
everyone.
he's he's too sweet for this world. Anyway,
And
all
then
right,
when
let's
even
move on.
even when they're not trying to, they're still fucking with them, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah, there's no way because basically Will's just like no matter what happens, everything rubs off on him. Like he can't,
Mhm.
he's like swayed in a rainstorm. There's just like
Yeah.
nothing he can do. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the next episode. Let's talk
Okay.
about episode 9, which
Mhm.
is Shiizakana. This is where we start to see this is the episode where we see Randall tear, right?
Mhm.
Um, we see at the beginning we see, and this is one of those things that you and I were talking about where we don't know if this is a dream or we don't know if this is a hallucination or whatever, and this is where I'm assuming that it's either a dream that Will has or it's a fantasy that he's having where he has tied Hannibal to the tree and he's got the raven stag pulling it tighter. This entire contraption of Hannibal being tied to the tree and of an animal pulling it tighter is
Mhm.
actually from Hannibal Rising. This is how Hannibal kills one of the soldiers that kills his sister Misha, is
Mhm.
this way, and this sort of torture of pulling it tighter and tighter. And we have the whole conversation where Hannibal starts to tell him about, when you really love someone that you can see their potential, and through your love their potential is realized, and you have that part in the script that they cut out at the end of the speech where Hannibal tells Will that he loves him,
Mhm.
and Will is whistling to the raven stag to pull it tighter and tighter until and the rope goes all around Hannibal and around his neck until eventually he and in a circumstance that I would like to call sploosh.
That's a good
And
way to
so
describe it.
sploosh. Now, if you've seen the show Archer, sploosh means something much different in Archer. However, this is because this is and the I love this scene because the scene is filmed in grayscale, and so everything is just gray, right? It's not
That's
exactly black and white, but
yeah.
it's like everything. It's like on the verge of, and so everything is gray until the sploosh, and when the sploosh
Mhm.
happens it's red blood, right? And
It
I
is just
and I got a gif for this for the those of you listening. I've got a gif of the sploosh up here on the screen. It's not perfect, it's a little pixelated, but the point is that so you see that Will's at this point in the season and in this episode, Will is still very much focused on his reckoning and on his
mhm.
vengeance, right? So his to him at this point, his mission with regards to what he's doing with the seduction of Hannibal is still a little more clear, okay?
Mhm.
We see Hannibal and Jack are having dinner, and Hannibal informs Jack that he can no longer talk to Jack about Will's therapy because now Will is employing him and not the FBI, so that patient doctor privilege is attached. This also, of course, is Hannibal's attempt to further isolate Will from other people.
Mhm.
Um, we see Hannibal. in therapy with Will again. Will explains that from the last episode that he regrets that he didn't kill Clark Ingram. He regrets that he let Hannibal stop him. Hannibal loves to talk to Will about Will killing people, and so
Yeah.
he asks, which is more of the porn. It's like dirty talk for him, like, tell me again how you killed him. Tell me again what it felt like when you killed him. Um,
Hmm.
and he asks him, how did you feel when you killed Garrett Jacob Hobbs? And Will said that he felt a quiet sense of power.
Hmm.
And Hannibal tells him, and then we have the whole line from Will: adapt, evolve, become.
Hmm.
Basically, that for Will to be able to feel this feeling again, because he's trying to communicate to Hannibal that he wants to feel this feeling again, that he's going to have to adapt, evolve, and become.
Hmm.
Hannibal tells him to remember that feeling.
Yeah, to
Um,
hold on to it.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so much of this is and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in Naka-choko, but it's Hannibal seeing himself in Will. And that's part of the reason that he continues to fall deeper and deeper in love with Will, because the
Hmm.
more that Will echoes Hannibal back to Hannibal,
Yeah.
the more he loves Will more. And
Oh,
of
yeah.
course, Will has the echolalia thing where he mimics people's speech patterns
Hmm.
and movements, and which is from the books, right?
Hmm.
And so it's just funny to me that Hannibal falls in love with Will deeper the more that Will is mirroring Hannibal back to himself.
Because Hannibal loves himself so much
Right. It's
and
like
loves what he
Narcissus
does. So
looking at
it's like,
yeah.
you know,
It's like Narcissus looking in the pool, you know what I mean?
it is.
It's
It is. Or like, him just standing there in a mirror. He's like, ooh, look at
just
me,
like,
you
look,
know?
check out my butt. Anyway,
His silky
we
little
see
shorts. Every
I
time I
can't
see that, I'm
decide.
like, is that real?
I can't decide in that episode with the same. Those of you who aren't sure what we're talking about, the silky little shorts are the
Whew.
shorts that Hannibal, the underwear that Hannibal is wearing. That we find out he was wearing on Mizumono night when he goes to Bedelia's house and he takes a shower in her house. And there's a brief split second where we see him and he's gotten out of the shower before he wraps himself in the towel or whatever. And for a brief split second, you can see his butt, and his butt, he's wearing these like they're almost like speedo length briefs, but they're like gold and shiny.
Sheer. You
It's
could see ass
sheerish,
crack at them. They're sheer, and
right?
I'm like,
And I can't decide if they put those on Mads because they were intending him to actually be naked, but they didn't want him to be naked because of censor things. So they wanted to get something that would look sort of flesh colored. You know what I mean? So because
mhm,
it's just a quick cut, right?
yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, is this Bryan's homage to Rocky Horror? Like, like you, like, no, no, we gotta have Mads here in some golden underwear. I want golden underwear on Matt.
Will is Rocky and Hannibal is Frankenfurter. That's just
Right, exactly. Except so that, but if that's the case, it should be Will wearing the golden shorts and not Hannibal. Anyway, he likes him some silky draws. Anyway, we see Jack and the BAU team talking about Randall. They're examining the first kill scene that Randall Tier has done, where he kills the guy on top of the truck. Right.
Mhm,
Hannibal is saying to, and Hannibal's there. We start having Hannibal at the scenes with Will and Jack, and so it's like Will's back. We don't really need Hannibal here, but here he is, right?
mhm.
And so Hannibal says, talking about the killer here, he's not denying his natural its natural instincts. He's evolving them. So this is more of the coded conversation that Hannibal and Will are having in front of other people. Hannibal is also talking about Will evolving his killing instincts. Then we see Hannibal and Will in therapy again in this episode. We see Hannibal telling Will that when Will came to his house when he got out of prison and he held the gun in his face,
Mhm.
that and in Savaro, he says that Will was hiding behind the gun. Once again, Hannibal talks to him about Will imagining killing him with his hands. He's really into this idea of Will killing him with his hands. Um, and then he tells Will that Will needs to be intimate with his instincts. And in my notes here, I've just put more porny talk. So
Yeah,
this is like, you need to be intimate with your instincts, Will. You want to kill me with your hands. And it's sort of like, and I don't mean to be boiling this down to all just sexy talk or
I
whatever,
know,
but
but
the point is that Hannibal wants Will to be more intimate with who he believes him to be inside, but this is
mhm,
also Hannibal wants Will to be more intimate with him,
mhm,
however that shakes out, whether that's emotional intimacy or physical intimacy. And so he's just encouraging Will to be more, like in season 3 when he says to Will, if you just relaxed with yourself, you'd be so much happier or whatever. Like, just let it go. Let your hair
yeah.
down, Will. Be
Meanwhile,
intimate
he's
with it.
yeah, he's like a jack in a box that hasn't sprung yet,
Well,
you know?
I showed my brother Aperitif and we were watching it together. And it was when it was finished, he's like, this guy playing Will, who's that? I'm like, it's Hugh Dancy. And he goes, is he this tightly wound through the entire series? Because if he's this tightly wound through the entire series, I don't know if I can watch it. Like, he's making me so nervous just watching him. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that's a good actor right there. And I'm
Exactly.
like, no, he loosens up a little bit later. He's like, oh, thank God. Anyway, um, so we have the be intimate with your instincts. Um, we see Will and also, this is when Margot comes to Will's house for the first time, and they're talking, sharing their notes on therapy, and then Will and Jack go to interview Randall Tier, and Will starts putting together the idea that Hannibal has a tendency to manipulate many of his patients into murder, right?
Mhm.
And so he's in therapy with Hannibal, and he confronts Hannibal about how many patients Hannibal has guided sort of towards murder. And in this entire conversation, Will almost sounds jealous. At one point, he says to Hannibal, how many have there been? How many others like me? And it's like, okay, you sound upset because you feel like this is what Hannibal does is he manipulates people to kill, but you also sound a little upset that you're not the only one, that
Yeah,
you're not even the first one.
which I can imagine made him not feel so special,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
You get him to that point and, "Okay, he's doing this with me.
Mhm.
Oh, wait a minute, he's done it with them and that person? Are you kidding me?
Mhm.
What, I'm doing this and you're doing this with other people?"
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
he's starting to have smoke out of his nose, you know? That's a nice way of saying it. I'm like, "Yeah, he's
Well,
pissed."
he is, and then he's asking Hannibal, like, "Well, what do you think Randall Tier would have to say about this?" And Hannibal's like, "Well, I think that you and Randall should have a more personal conversation." And it's like, oh. And then the next thing you know, Hannibal is sicking Will on Randall. Okay, and we see at the end of that episode and picking up in the next episode where Randall attacks Will at his house and comes through the window, and Will, so it's almost like you have one protege attempting to kill the other protege, right?
True.
Um, so that's basically Su-zakana. Excuse me, Shiizakana. There's too many Zakanas. Too many
It's
Zakanas.
true.
So tell me, what do you have any last thoughts about this episode, about the Randall Tier episode, the Shiizakana?
I'm trying to think of what would pop right into my head about it. I mean, pretty much what you already brought up about Will feeling special and then feeling not so special. It's a lot
Mhm.
of conflicted feelings, and to me, it's a good example of the cat and mouse yo-yo that Hannibal likes to do with Will in his
Mhm.
mind,
Mhm.
not just pushing him physically against other people, but messing with his head, which is what I was getting at earlier when I say he was grooming his mind to a certain point
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
prep it for something deeper. if that
Absolutely.
makes any sense. Yeah, it's um, it, grooming it to a certain point and making him feel special, but at the same time, slowly grinding it down.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
know,
absolutely. Kind of like he's like using a lathe on Will's mind.
or it's sort of like Will keeps casting his line out, and each
Hmm.
time he thinks he has him hooked, he spits it back out
Right.
until the fly
Until,
needs to be replaced,
right.
and it just starts all over again. A
Well,
fresh fly hook.
there's a certain point in this season where Hannibal is definitely hooked, and I think it's when we've got coming up in the next episode in Naka-choko.
Mhm.
And I think that when Hannibal is ir, ir, irrev- irrevocably
Yeah,
irrevocably
better
sorry,
you than me.
I know how to pronounce this word, it's just my brain wouldn't do it. Hooked is when Will kills Randall Tier,
Yeah.
because in Naka-choko, which is the next episode, we see that Will has killed Randall Tier. He brings the body to Hannibal's house and throws it on his dining room table. Hannibal comes in. Um, we saw that when Will was fighting Randall Tier, that at a certain point he imagines that he's fighting the Stag Man, and then
Mhm.
at a certain point the Stag Man's face becomes Hannibal's face, and he's
Cannibals.
got all this blood in his mouth, and he's like smiling, and it's like, yes, this is what Hannibal wants.
Yeah.
Um, and he brings the body to Hannibal's house and throws it on the table and says, I sent someone to kill you. You sent someone to kill me. To me, looks like we're even Steven. And Hannibal just nods, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
we have the erotic hand bandaging scene, um, where Hannibal tells Will how pleased he is that Will has done this, and he asks Will to quote unquote stay with him, meaning emotionally stay with him. There's a
Mhm.
lot of play with eye contact in this episode, because in this scene and in another scene, Will just absolutely does not look at Hannibal, right? He
Yeah.
will not look him in the eyes, because this is then contrasted with the end of the episode when they're having dinner together. Um, so then Will takes Randall Tier's body and does the tableau of Randall Tier at the museum, right?
Mhm.
And we see Jack and Hannibal and Will there later on investigating it. Okay. We have more porny coded language going on here between Hannibal and Will, because Hannibal's like, "Oh, he's doing this," and Will's like, "No, the killer's not doing this. He's doing this." And it's like, "Oh, he's never killed this way before. No, he's never killed this way before." And Jack is just standing there like, "Really? Yeah, like, yeah, um, really, y'all?" Will
Get a
does
room.
the whole, yeah, and this scene to me is such meta dramatic irony, because everybody knows what's going on here, or so I thought. I thought that at this point Jack knows that Will has killed Randall Tier, because at some point Jack knows,
Mhm.
because he says to Will, "You killed Randall Tier and posed him. That's on my head." And then Katie Purnell knows about it later. But apparently Jack doesn't know it at this
At the
point,
point.
that Will and Hannibal are having this porny coded conversation in front of him, because, and I dug up a tweet from Bryan. Um, you see in this tweet from Bryan here, it says, "Will has not told Jack Crawford that he ate human flesh to seduce,"
Mhm.
referring to later on in the episode when Will is supposedly eating the remnants of Freddie Lowndes with Hannibal. So at least in this episode, Will has not let Jack in yet on his murder and mutilation of Randall Tier,
Randall Tier.
right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, ultimately, Will does tell Jack, because Jack needs to know this, but I think it's interesting that he keeps it a secret for that long, right?
Mhm.
Um, so and I we talked about that. I will, whenever I get the chance to interview Bryan again, I'm going to ask him a whole question about what does Jack Crawford know and when does he know it, because it's a little blurry to me, right? So,
It'd be nice
um,
to know that. Just to be on the end loop, and actually
Right, because people all the time are like, Jack Crawford's so dumb, like he's not seeing what's going on or whatever. And I'm like, I fucking defy you to be in the circumstance here and figure this shit out. Okay. It's
Yeah.
like the conversations are like this.
Hmm. It's true.
Like it's true.
Hmm.
We see that Will has a meeting with Freddie Lowndes because remember he's agreed to let her write the book about him or whatever. Um, Freddie says that she doesn't believe that Chilton is the Chesapeake Ripper and that she's never letting Abigail's murder go. She's like, I do not believe that he killed Abigail and I'm never letting that go. And Will says that he won't let it go either.
Hmm.
I quite frankly don't think that Will ever forgive Hannibal for killing Abigail. I think
No.
that if we ever get a season 4, that this
Hmm.
issue is going to come up again. Like they're going to get into a
I'm sure it
fight
will. Hmm.
and like a couple that's been together a long time, but there was something that somebody did back here, like he fucked up and got real drunk one night and slept with a girl like once or something,
Hmm.
and you get into a fight and all of a sudden, oh yeah, well what about Heather? You remember fucking Heather? You know, like whatever. And so later they're gonna be living their happy lives in Cuba and something's gonna go sideways and Will's gonna be like, oh yeah, let's talk about Abigail then. And Will's and it was
That will be a Hiroshima bomb going off when he lets those emotions out. You
absolutely.
know,
I do
with
not feel that he's ever going to forgive him about Abigail. Kind of
no,
zooms past
that's a
Beverly.
hurt. Yeah, that's a hurt that won't go away. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and the
No.
fact too that the whole the pain was so drawn out because he didn't know that she was alive all that time, just to have her
Right.
brought out in front of him again, and and
Yeah.
I love you. I'll do that with my hands too, and it's like, so I mean, that's definitely, I definitely see a lot of fallout coming from that at one point in time in season 4.
Yeah. If we get a
Hmm.
season 4, when we get a season 4, can't wait to see that happen. Um, So then we have, and this is the episode where we have the 5-way sex scene with Will having sex with Margot and Hannibal having sex with Alana, but then also starring the Stag Man, or who Bryan calls Staggy, right? He's
Hmm.
at the foot of Will's bed watching him have sex with Margot, and then
Fucking
he's
voyeur.
on top. And then he's on top of Alana, right? And the funny thing is, I looked at the script, and the stag man being involved in this sex scene is not in the script, which means that they added it before they went to filming, right?
What did
And
Bryan
I
do it
just,
at one of those 3 o'clock in the morning emails? This is what's going to go down. You're going to have this guy staring at you. Don't worry, Mass. He looks just like you, but he has horns. I mean,
right?
it's all
I
freaky.
just, I just want to know if it was Bryan or who it was on the writing team who was all of a sudden like, "Hey, wait a minute,
I have a feeling,
I've
I mean,
got
I
an
can't
idea."
speak for him, but I could see Bryan doing that. Just,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely.
this will work.
Yeah, like
And
let's see.
sorry,
We've
sometimes
got
when
to
I
get
laugh, it's,
No, it's like he's, got to get the monster fucking in there if we can possibly do it, right? Like, you know what this is missing? Monster fucking.
mm-hmm. And I
Anyway,
mean, I watched the whole scene and I'm like, even though there's 5 of them, the only 2 I see are Hannibal and Will,
mhm.
because all I can see in that whole scene is them just thinking of each other.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think it's very it to females watching it, to and femme people watching it.
Mhm.
Alana and Margot are both being used in this circumstance. Now,
Oh,
mind
yeah.
you, Margot is using Will,
Mhm.
but Hannibal is using Alana. Will is using Margot because Will would rather be sleeping with Alana or Hannibal. Hannibal would
Yeah,
rather be sleeping with Will.
Will.
And so it's like, there's all this sex going on here, but very little intimacy. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
agree. At
so we
least
have the
Hannibal
five.
was looking at Alana.
Right, yeah. Will's doing a lot of behind her. Um, In therapy, then another scene in therapy, we see Margot telling Hannibal that she had sex with Will. And the next thing we
Oof.
know, we see Hannibal out at Muskrat Farm recruiting Mason to be his patient.
Mm-hmm.
um, we see Will, Hannibal, and Alana all having dinner, this very uncomfortable dinner where Alana's talking about boundaries and whatever. And finally, Will says to her, we know where we are with each other. Shouldn't that be enough? To me, this scene always read like they were discreetly telling Alana to kind of mind her own business. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
we're what's between us is between us, and you don't need to worry about it, right?
Yeah.
Um, we see Freddie getting caught. This is when Freddie goes snooping around Will's house, and she goes out into the barn and finds the remnants of Randall Tier in Will's freezer. And obviously, we know that behind the scenes here is when they start planning faking Freddie's death. So I have to assume that this is when Will tells Jack about killing Randall Tier, if for
Yeah.
no other reason that he has to, because
Mm-hmm.
Freddie has seen the body parts in the freezer, and she's seen the Randall Tier's like robot creature that he was hanging from the ceiling of Will's barn.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, to everybody else, Freddy's been killed and is dead. And then we have the scene in Naka-choko where Will brings the meat for Hannibal to cook, and he makes lomo saltado. And there's all these fucking cannibal puns. That she was a slim and delicate pig. And Hannibal tells him to slice the ginger.
I was gonna say lots of ginger.
Yeah, yeah. Slice the ginger. And then we have, in contrast to many of the other scenes in this episode where they don't look at each other at all, like Hannibal and Will when they're talking about Randall Tier's corpse. Hannibal's behind him, Will's in front of him. They never look at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Then in this scene, we have the absolute. I'm trying to add this picture, add to the picture to the stage. There it is, absolute epitome of eye fucking.
Oh yeah, hands down.
This image of Hannibal, of Mads making this face, to me is like if you needed a picture to show someone showing on their face that they sexually desire another person, 100% perfect portrayal of that, it is Mads's face here.
It's true. It's true. And Will looks like he's totally gloating on it.
Oh,
His little smirky smile right there is just, I don't know why, but I like the term sneered. Maybe maybe because it's like a snarky little quirky chuckle snort, just sneered. He's just like,
absolutely.
oh, look, he really wants me now. If he thought he wanted me before, look at
Hmm.
him right now. And yeah, he's definitely eye fucking him.
Yes, and and that's why I'm saying that this is the episode that when Will, if we're using this fishing metaphor, hooks Hannibal, it's when he kills
Hmm.
Randall Tier. It's when
Yeah.
he kills Randall Tier, and it's when he poses Randall Tier's body, and then it's in this scene because when you're watching this scene, okay,
Hmm.
um, I've said in my notes, it's difficult to tell how much Will is really enjoying this and how much of it is performative. However, the scene is very striking in how Will is now fully mimicking Hannibal's speech patterns, physical movements, and facial expressions. And throughout this entire scene, you see he's slowed down the cadence of his speech like Hannibal's. He's being very precise with his words in the same way
Exactly.
that Hannibal is. And he's looking right at him, like he's meeting every stare. There's even a point in this scene where Hannibal has to look away. Like he looks down at his food, and it's the coyest thing you've ever seen in your life because he's like, I fuck. And then he like looks down at his food like, blink, blink, blink. Like if he just had more fluffy eyelashes on, it'd be like, good God, look at this coquette. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it is, I love this scene so much. And you've got that beautiful Mahler piece playing in the background, and it's
Yes.
just,
It's it's
it's,
it's a perfect piece.
it's the height of romance, right?
Yes.
And all of it over the fact that they're eating a piece of a human being, which they actually are.
Yeah.
It's not Freddie Lowndes. Bryan was quoted somewhere later on saying that it's Randall Tier. It's some piece that he
Mhm.
took off of Randall Tier. But Will is eating, at least with regards to the fact that he knows that he's eating people for the first time. He's probably eaten people before that Hannibal has brought him. This is the first time he's willingly eating people. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's where we wind up in Naka-choko. Do we have any? I probably need to start speeding things up, but do we have any last thoughts on Naka-choko?
Oh, he Will, you're talking about the way he mimics and stuff, and it's I think he knows deep down inside too. The more he acts like Hannibal, the more things he does that are like Hannibal, the more entranced Hannibal is.
Mhm.
Which is where he gets to the long eyelash point and looking down because he's like, I am definitely looking at myself now. He
Right.
sounds like him. He's doing the same things that he's doing. He did bring the meat that time. He brought slabs of it, and I mean, he brought it on heavy. So, I mean,
Mm,
I'm sure while Hannibal's taking those little blinky little bites, he's probably popping wood underneath that table,
absolutely.
you know.
Yeah. It'd be funny if we saw the table like rise up a little bit, like. I can't remember who it was. Somebody on Twitter back when I was more active on Twitter, that the scene when he says, did you fantasize about killing me? How would you do it?" And he says, "With you, with my hands." And then Hannibal's look on the face. I got somebody. I can't. Oh God, I can't remember who it was right now. For them to they edited in the sound of a slide whistle right afterwards, like.
That's awesome.
It's like, and I gotta find it.
That's funny.
It's exactly. It's like, yep, that's what happened. Anyway,
That's funny.
let's let's talk about um episode 11, which is Konomono. At the beginning of this episode, we have another one of these like dreamscapes. We see the stagman walking through the forest. He comes upon the raven stag who falls down and dies. And then we see Will tearing himself out of the body of the raven stag.
Mhm.
And the Will that comes out, his skin is darkened like the stagman's, and he's got antlers. And so this is obviously symbolic of Will's becoming as a murderer, that he's becoming more like Hannibal because he's coming to look like the Stagman. We
Mhm.
don't know if this is Will's vision or dream, or if it's Hannibal's vision or dream, or if it's an artistic meditation. I don't know, but it's obviously communicating the symbolic nature of what's happening to Will. Um, we see in this episode, Alana comes to Will's house. She tells him that he should stay away from Hannibal. We see that Alana is very scared that Will has actually killed Freddie, right?
Mhm.
Um, Will gives her the gun, tells her to practice and everything. I think that one of the things, because you see in this scene that Will looks really hurt by Alana, and I think that the thing that hurts him the most is that Alana can't see who he really is.
Mhm.
And I think that Will doesn't, I think he feels most confused and regretful about what he's becoming when he talks to Alana. Because I think Alana sees him the way that he is, like the true Will, but the way that she sees him is the way that he was and not what he is
Yes.
anymore,
Mhm.
you know? So it's kind of like, I don't know, like your parents still seeing you as a little kid and you're not a little kid anymore. Or possibly it could be like someone, and I don't want to necessarily project this onto it, but like let's say someone who is discovering their sexuality, or discovering that they are transforming into, so that, for a lot of our trans fanables, they identify
Mhm.
a lot with Will here because of his becoming, that he's becoming what he sees himself to truly be. But Alana sees him still as what he was,
Yeah.
and that kind of, I think, makes him sad, right?
Mhm.
um then we have the ortolan scene where Hannibal and Will eat the ortolans. um Bryan has said that this scene is absolutely simulated oral sex. It's not just
Mhm.
all of that. There's a lot of beautiful discussion here. This is where Hannibal says to Will, "You must understand that blood and breath are only elements undergoing change to fuel your radiance," which comes up later in season 3.
Mhm.
However, I have a quote from Bryan here where he spoke to the AV Club about this scene, and as a backdrop, I'm going to put up this picture of this is Will putting the ortolan in his mouth.
Mhm.
And Bryan says, it's an interesting scene with the insert shots of the close ups of Hannibal and Will chewing and swallowing and reveling in the flavor of this meal. It is a very disturbing meal. What they do, Hannibal describes a bit of this, is drown the bird in ammoniac and pluck it and roast it, and then it's eaten all at once. So its bowels are full, its stomach and lungs are full of ammoniac. So when you bite into it, there's this burst of hot liqueur mixed with its gamey intestines and everything that was in it. The crunching of the bones is actually so sharp that it cuts up the inside of your mouth. So not only are you tasting your own blood, but you're tasting this beautiful songbird at the same time. And it just seems so wicked that it would be an appropriate communion wafer for Hannibal Lecter to offer up in that regard. The scene has a very bizarre sexuality to it because it's all of these close up shots of things going in men's mouths and then swallowing and eye rolling. So it's hard not to think of the sexual subtext of what's happening between these two guys at the same time. It felt like a lot was going on in the scene, not only just the communion, but the exchange of body fluids in a way and swallowing for God's sake. So we can't claim innocence on that scene.
Oh, no. Not at all.
So, no. So very, very, very much porny in this scene. Um, so, oops, I skipped ahead. Hang on. So next, we see Hannibal and Will have another porny conversation in front of Jack over the burned corpse of the fake Freddie Lowndes. This is when they
Mhm.
supposedly faked the. At Hannibal's office, we see Margot making her pregnancy announcement. Will looks very distraught. I can't imagine Hannibal is happy about this in the slightest. He wanted Margot to take agency for herself, but not if it involved his boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Um, then we see Hannibal going to talk to Mason at Muskrat Farm. And he basically, or excuse me, this isn't, is this at Muskrat? No, this is in therapy with Mason. And he basically insinuates to Mason that Margot is trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, this shows how much Hannibal actually cares about Margot, which is not as much as he cares about himself. He cares about Will, but he doesn't think about how losing a child again will hurt Will, or if he thinks about it, Hannibal doesn't care. He wants Will all to himself. He knows that by telling Mason about Margot trying to get pregnant, that Mason will do something to cause her to lose the baby, and therefore will lose another child. He's already lost Abigail,
Yep.
but Hannibal wants Will to himself so badly that he's willing to hurt Will again like this.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Over and over again.
I know. And
There
it's
there's
one of the
there's no room for anyone else when it comes to him.
right,
No one else, nothing else. It's all him or nothing,
right.
which he won't take nothing. So it's all him. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. It's me or nothing, and nothing is not actually an option.
Yeah, it's not on the menu. It's not on the menu.
It's not on the menu. It's Hannibal or Hannibal.
Mhm.
We see Freddie's fake funeral. We see Will having to kind of pretend and lie to Alana. With the script says it hurts Will's feelings to have to lie to her.
Yeah.
Um, we then see Hannibal and Will talking about fatherhood. Hannibal talks about Misha. Will asks Hannibal why he killed Abigail. Like it was one of the first times he pointedly asks him, "Why did you kill someone?" Right? Hannibal mentions the teacup here for the first time. We see the motif talked about, and Hannibal says, "Occasionally, on purpose, I drop a teacup to shatter on the floor. I'm not satisfied when it doesn't gather itself up again. Someday, perhaps, a cup will come together." Right? And people who are watching the series for a second or any number of times know that Hannibal is talking here about the fact that Abigail will come back because he knows that Abigail isn't really dead.
Yeah.
But the first time when you're watching this and you don't know that, you're like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, I think the first time I thought he was talking about Will, like breaking him down and then watching him try to get the pieces back together. And there's always something that he carries over with him. Each time something really traumatic happens, it's just like a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something happens and it doesn't totally go away, and then it builds up a little bit more as it keeps rolling downhill. So it's, yeah, I was sort of thrown by that the first time around, and then second time I was like, okay, this is totally, totally different than what I thought it was.
Right, right. Because then later in this episode, we have they're in therapy again, and Hannibal says to Will, should the universe contract, should time reverse and teacups come together, a place could be made for Abigail in your world. You've lost a child, Will. It seems you're likely to gain one. This is particularly cruel of Hannibal. This is one of the things I never quite understand about him, because at this point in the episode when he says this, he knows that he's told Mason about Margot trying to have a baby. And so
Hmm.
he knows that Will is going to lose this child. And so
Yeah.
he's getting Will's hopes up only to have them dashed. And the only thing I can think is that this is all sort of a sadist's kind of way to prove to Will that Will isn't allowed to have anything but him. You know what I mean?
I look at it that way, and I also look at it as another opportunity to wear him down and break him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's easier to mold into what he wants him to be and what he wants him to do. So
Right.
he's continuously wearing him down,
Yeah.
which is a
He is.
nasty circle. You bring him back up and then bring him back down hard,
Right.
and you get to that rock bottom, the only way is up, but he just keeps throwing him down,
Right.
so
Yeah, it's it leaves him off balance all the time. You know what I mean?
he
Um,
does.
Mason, Jack reveals to Alana that Freddie is alive. Mason takes Margot's baby. Will finds out about it. He gets all mad. He goes to Muskrat Farm, and that's when he tells Mason, he's like, "Do you think it was Margot's idea to have a child? Do you think it was my idea to come here and try to kill you? No. The
Mhm.
only thing that all of us here have in common is that we have the same psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter is the one that you want to be feeding to your pigs, right?"
Mhm.
And that's that episode. Um, let's go ahead and talk about episode 12, which is Tome-wan.
Mhm.
Um, we start off this one with the scene where Hannibal and Will are in therapy. Hannibal's talking about how he and Will are just alike, and he's asking Will, like, why did you put the target on my back with regards to Mason? This is where we get the eat the rude line.
Mhm.
They're talking about Will and Hannibal are talking about when or how is Hannibal going to kill Mason,
Mhm.
right? Um, then we see when Hannibal says to Will, I want you to close your eyes and imagine what you want to happen. And when Will does that is when Will imagines Hannibal hanging from the hook at Muskrat Farm, and he's wearing the straight jacket,
Straight jacket.
and Will comes up and slashes his throat, and the
Mhm.
blood sprays all over him, and then he goes and lowers Hannibal into like the pig pen,
Blender.
and yeah, the pig
Pig
blender.
blender.
And there's so much Christ imagery going on here that Hannibal's got all this
Yeah.
blood dripping off of his feet and everything like that. And I just want to point out that Bryan had a pretty interesting tweet to say about this. I keep getting the wrong one when I'm doing this. Hang on.
The body
There it
fluid
is.
spraying into the face. I knew it was coming. Oh, I knew it
Will
was.
Will Graham is covered in Hannibal's bodily fluids. Gay
Uh-huh.
agenda.
You know it. When I
But
saw it, I was like, whoo.
this now this is what Hannibal, I mean, what Will imagines that he wants to happen in this circumstance that when he closes his eyes, he sees. But the funny thing, or not the funny, the interesting thing about this is that when he sees this in his mind, Hannibal, Will opens his eyes and Hannibal asks him what he saw, and Will doesn't tell him, right?
No.
Um, so we have that happening. Um, we have Mason come in for therapy and he stabs Hannibal's chair, which then causes him to seal his fate. Um,
Oh yeah.
we have
That's one of my favorite scenes, actually.
just and
Because
it's
the
like,
look on his face, you know, he barely has to move his face, but that's the scene that I brag about Hannibal turning into a mouth breather. Because as soon as he fucked that leather up, Hannibal's like,
yeah.
can't even close his mouth. He's just looking at him and he's darting his eyes at the arm of the chair and then back at Mason, like, you got to be shitting me. You seriously just did that to my
I
furniture. And I
know,
was
I
like,
know.
oh, that's a
I
big no
remember,
no. I knew
I
it was going to
know.
hit the fan.
I mean, it's like so much worse than Franklin with the tissue. You know what I mean?
That was
Like
bad
as
enough. But yeah,
uh,
stabbing.
stabbing the chair. And I remember when I watched it for the first time, I was like, "Oh my god!" It's like you're
Mhm,
so done. And it just shows you how much Mason has been protected by his privilege in his life
mhm.
that he like he doesn't even think about what he's done. And it's like,
No.
God, if you fucking knew who Hannibal Lecter is and what he does, you idiot. Right? He killed
But
Cassie Boyle because she blew smoke in his face. Like,
yeah,
what do you think he's gonna do to you?
just the amount of rage you see in his eyes and the fact
Yeah.
that he can't close his mouth. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, oh shit. Because you would, you know, anyone else you think it would, oh, he did this to my family or he John Wicked me and, you know, Will, oh God, he killed one of my dogs. You know, you see something like that, but no, a chair stab. And he's just like,
Mhm.
this guy is toast. He is so toast
Absolutely.
and
He's so
not in a
toast.
good way, you know, which we could get to.
Right. Um, I'm kind of just moving through this quickly because I want to make sure we get to Mizumono. Um, we see Margot leaving the hospital. Um, Jack and Will talk about if Hannibal has said anything they can arrest him for yet. Will says he doesn't. He hasn't. He says that Hannibal's trying to manipulate him into killing Mason. Will's trying to manipulate him back into killing Mason, and that when he goes to kill Mason, then that's when Will is going to arrest him because then he'll have something actionable about it. We
Hmm.
see that Jack finds Bedelia and drags her back to because she's run off before they give her immunity. She explains what happened with Neil Frank, her
Hmm.
patient who swallowed his tongue, and that actually she killed him. I once looked this up. It turns out that the reason they're saying Bedelia killed him is that by putting her arm down his throat, that she
Hmm.
actually pushed the tongue further back down, and that's when and he choked on her arm, which is
Yeah.
why it's considered murder. She tells Will that the way they'll catch Hannibal is the whimsy. Then we see the scene with Hannigram in the office and they're drinking wine. And then that's finally when Will says he talks about how Hannibal has isolated him from everybody, from Jack, from Alana. He says, I just even start to get used to the idea of having a child and you take that away from me. And he says, you don't want me to have anything in my life that's not you. And the
Hmm.
script says Hannibal doesn't deny it. In this scene, it's also very interesting because the way it's filmed over each of the characters' shoulder, and their body is partially obscuring the camera as they're talking. So it's like they can't even like like Hannibal doesn't want anything in Will's life that's not him to the point that he is even obscuring the view of the viewer watching the scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
like this bitch has got to be in every fucking frame. Okay. Um, so when we have the scene with the fish jello, Jack has
Ugh,
to eat the fish jello,
for
the
them.
cotelettes.
Ugh.
Hannibal is kidnapped by Carlo. He kills Carlo's brother Matteo in the process. Um, they take him to Muskrat Farm. We have the whole thing with Will's supposed to bleed him, but he cuts him out of the straitjacket,
Uh-huh.
and then he's knocked out and wakes up, and everybody's gone except there's a whole bunch of blood, and Carlo's being eaten by the pigs. And then he
Hmm.
goes home. and he finds Mason feeding his face to the dogs, which someone who's never seen the show before would look at that and be like, "Oh my god, what an insane thing that Bryan Fuller made up." And it's like, "No, bitch, this is canon from Harris." Like
Yeah,
Harris has Hannibal drug Mason Verger and make him feed his face to
yeah.
dogs.
I think it's great, and the fact that he's so fucked up out of his gourd, and he's
Mhm,
twisted to start with, but the fact that he makes a Hannibal makes a comment, and not one hallucinogenic, but like a cocktail, and it's like, man, that leaves it wide open. And there's some crazy stuff out there. It
mhm,
could have been shrooms and LSD. It could have been some weird shit from the rainforest, you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
Um, but the fact that he's so out of it and he's laughing as he's still slicing away, I was like, you know, of course, I'm sure the dogs were happy to have something besides their regular kibble, but it would have left a really weird taste in my mouth. I mean, what is that? What does that type of next level crazy taste like? You can't
It
tell me
it
it's acidic and it's not sweet. Maybe
no.
a little funny, maybe like Pop Rocks. I don't know. That would probably put him, Mason in that category. He'd be like a packet of Pop Rocks.
I mean, raw human flesh, God knows.
Yeah.
Raw, bloody human flesh. Bleh. Anyway, so that's basically Tome-wan. And now let's get ourselves to Mizumono, okay?
Okay.
We're at Mizumono. We see at the beginning of the episode where Will is he's they're doing that split screen thing where he's talking to he's talking to Hannibal and he's talking to Jack, and they're talking about Jack has been invited to the dinner, and they're talking about, and the music here is so crazy, like it drives me insane because it's got that tick 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 tick
Mhm.
thing going on. And finally, and they're cutting back and forth between Jack talking to Will talking to Jack, Will talking to Hannibal. And finally, Jack says to him, Hannibal thinks you're his man in the room. I think you're mine, which I think is very indicative. I believe that so much of the struggle that we have going on between Jack and Hannibal is they're fighting over Will's loyalty, and they're fighting
Mhm.
over possession of Will. Um,
Kitty
and then
cat.
we have, yeah, there's a kitty cat back there. My brother told me to let the kitty cats be in the shot, so there's a kitty
Mhm.
cat. Um, and so they're asking Will, both of them, when the time comes, will you do what needs to be done? And they show the split screen of Jack's face and Hannibal's face, but then the split screen is also of Will's face, and it's Will's face on one side and Will's face on the other, which I think is meant to show the reader just how, not the reader, the viewer, just how conflicted Will is. Because by
Mhm.
this point, I think we're at the point where Will really doesn't know. He's so divided, he really doesn't know what he's going to do.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I agree. He is split right down the middle. And
Mhm,
I don't know if he even knows what's really bad and what's really good anymore at
mhm.
that point. It's one big blur.
Yeah,
And I think that's a lot of it has to be with him being conditioned over and over again and going back to him getting worn down. He
mhm,
keeps doing crazier and heavier things, you know, and he's trying to set a trap, but at the same time, like for Hannibal, and at the same time, Hannibal's getting him right into his.
mhm,
So I really don't think he knows which way he's gonna go. He's split down the middle, but at the same time, he's just one big ball of questions and no answers. There's no availability for answers for him right
right.
now because he's there.
Right. And part
Yeah.
of it is because both Jack and Hannibal chose to put someone as emotionally vulnerable as Will in this position. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Mhm.
Hannibal's a serial killer and he's manipulative and all of that stuff. So we can't expect him to have more responsibility or rise above or something, but Jack should know better
He should.
And that's part of the reason that when Alana, goes to Katie Purnell and tells her what's going on and whatever, it's kind of like, and some people get mad at her. I'm like, she should have, because what Jack is doing here with regards to Will's psyche is completely irresponsible. And when she knows he didn't do any of these killings, Freddie Lowndes isn't dead, she's like, okay, I'm tired of this. Someone's going to have to stand up for Will, and that means I'm going to have to go over Jack's head, right?
Yeah.
So we have the dream scene where Will imagines that he's on like a miniature version of his deer blind, and he shoots at the raven stag. We see him meet with Freddie, and he asks her not to write about Abigail. You get the feeling that Will is starting to think that he's not going to survive what happens with Hannibal.
Hmm.
um, we see he's with Hannibal, and they're burning Hannibal's patient journals, and Hannibal's telling him about the Norman Chapel. And then that's when Hannibal smells Freddie Lowndes on Will, because the dumbass bitch doesn't know how to take a fucking shower. I love him, but he knows about the way that Hannibal smells shit. And it never occurred to him, I should take a shower before I go to Hannibal's house.
Yeah,
Or
I
Febreze,
agree.
or something, right?
Yeah,
Anyway, he smells, and the script describes about just how there's just this look in Hannibal's eyes of like, it immediately flames up into rage, and then it just cools off into just this sadness, right? And you
hmm,
have the scene where they're eating dinner that night, and Hannibal is serving lamb, and Hannibal, says we could disappear tonight, and Will turns it down. I've got a quote from Bryan about this. He says, for me, when Hannibal smells Freddie Lowndes on Will Graham and realizes he's been duped, the heartbreak of that is one thing. You see him sort of go quiet and interior after he gets a whiff of Freddie. And then that dinner scene afterward, where he is essentially telling Will, his best friend in the world he has ever had, I will forgive you if you come clean with me right now. All will be forgiven. And Will doesn't take it. Will continues to move forward with his betrayal, and it's a very quiet, solemn, sad scene for me watching Hannibal. And I did empathize with him, because regardless of what he's done as a monster, we all relate to the intensity of a friendship that feels so unique. And when that falls apart, it is heartbreaking, because that someone who once had the ability to understand you and accept you was all a falsehood is devastating. So I felt like we were doing our jobs and making it feel appropriately impactful for Hannibal to suffer this loss. So then we have Alana tells Katie Purnell about the plan for Jack to arrest Hannibal at his house at the dinner that night. She takes away Jack's badge and gun. Then she decides she's going to bring Will and Jack up on charges. Alana calls Will and warns him the FBI is coming. Will runs, he takes his gun, and on his way to Hannibal's house, he calls Hannibal and tells him they know.
yeah.
And then we get to everything in the kitchen. Fighting Jack. Jack is in the pantry. Alana coming in. Will, Abigail, all of it. So now that we've gotten to that point, which is where we've been going all season, because Bryan gives us a preview of it in the first episode of the
Mm.
season, and then says 12 weeks late, 12 weeks earlier, and it's like, you son of a bitch.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, no,
No, what are you talking about?
don't
That's
do
a
this to
long
me.
way.
Yeah, very long.
Tell me your feelings about the end of Mizumono, the bloody dinner, as it were.
I thought it was awesome. But again, I'm pretty much a sadist. But yeah, it was I don't know, a word you could use for it. It was hardcore. Um Amusing. It also showed what type of rage people are capable of, like real rage, not just, yeah, it sort of blew my mind, put it
Mm-hmm.
that way. And it's something that doesn't get old with me. No matter how many
No.
times I watch it, it's just like I'm hooked. You know,
No, I know.
yeah. So it was very well written and very well thought out and very well executed by everyone
Mhm,
that was in it. So very
mhm.
impressive to me. It was a hell of episode to go out like that. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely, and I mean, just I remember, like, the first time I saw Mizumono, I cried, and then every time after that, I was just sort of screaming at the screen, like, "No! No! Don't do that! Don't go in there!" You know? And
Hmm.
out of all of it, the person I feel most terrible for is Alana because I'm like, Hannibal, he just so quickly dismisses her. Like, I had hoped I didn't even have to say goodbye to you
Hmm.
and whatever. And then and then Abigail pushes her through the window. Like, the person done dirtiest
Oh yeah.
on this entire evening is Alana,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
Um, the entire Will coming in, seeing Abigail, Hannibal's behind him, and the we couldn't leave without you and the gutting. I'm going to show a picture of the gutting here.
That just yeah, and knowing that he was hitting him where it wouldn't kill him,
Right.
but it was gonna hurt him really bad.
Right. And the fact that
Um,
he cuts Will in a way that Will won't die, but he makes sure to kill Abigail. And he
yeah,
makes sure to kill Abigail by cutting her exactly where her father cut her. It's just so petty. I'm
it
sorry.
is.
It's
It is.
it's so petty and bitchy. You know what I mean? Like, it's like he doesn't even kill Will. Like, he
He
makes
doesn't
sure to
he
go
doesn't
ahead, go
even
ahead.
flinch. He doesn't even flinch.
Mhm.
He's doing that to someone that he loves and
Right.
doesn't even flinch, you know?
No.
If anything, he's excited that he has him that close to him.
There's that, but the part where Will and Abigail are laying on the ground bleeding out, and Hannibal
Mhm.
comes down and says, the you can make it all go away, put your head back, close your eyes, and wade into the quiet of the stream, as he's leaning over like that. People have pointed out in some of the things, you can look in some gifs, that there's like a tear that rolls down Hannibal's nose.
Mhm.
And I would like to point out that in this part, and then when Hannibal goes outside into the rain, the music here is Bloodfest,
Mhm.
Brian Wright's Bloodfest, which I swear to God, that piece of music, I start crying every single time I hear that fucking piece of music. One day I thought about that piece of music and started crying.
Started
It
crying.
is so beautiful and sad, and it just immediately, like, calls up it recalls up to me the emotion that I felt the first time I saw this scene. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so anytime, and then we get Bloodfest again in the Uffizi Gallery scene in season 3. And so it
Mhm.
immediately brings all of that back. And I think the thing that it brought back for me was that sometimes, I know that for me, because of the turbulent relationships that I've had in my life, and this is part of the reason that I am no longer a practicing heterosexual, uh,
Mhm.
is that some of the people that I loved the most in my life were the people that hurt me the most and did me
Oh
this
yeah.
dirty, to where you have this sort of blended, this to where pain and love get so closely connected to each other that you know exactly what that tastes like and how that feels. And
Yeah.
that's what Bloodfest sounds like to me. It sounds like what the pain of loving someone that is absolutely toxic feels like, and what it would sound like.
True.
You know what I mean?
True. And and then you have to think the another thing to point out is Will had already lost Abigail once,
Right.
and then he sees her, and it's like, I have my daughter back,
Mhm.
and then loses her with finality at that
Right.
point. So
Right.
I can't imagine the hurt,
Yeah.
like just all of it combined. Um, Even put the physical aside, as bad as that would hurt. Just
Right.
just the mental pain and heartache of having to lose her again, you know,
Again.
I can't even imagine,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
if
and
you think about
Atlanta too being a friend, you know,
mhm,
there was just so much that happened at once.
mhm.
And Jack Jack could fight, but he sort of got himself into that pickle.
Yeah, he did. Now
He
he gets his revenge in Contorno in season 3 because in that fight scene he hands Hannibal his ass. And
Mhm.
that's actually my favorite fight scene in the whole series is the one in Contorno. But I don't know that it was that Jack underestimated Hannibal. I think that it's that he didn't see the real Hannibal, the
Mhm.
real 100% Hannibal, like he is this bitch until that moment when he comes vaulting over the counter and all of a sudden you can see even the look on Jack's face. He's like, "Oh shit." It's like, "Yes. This is what he is." Like they lull
Mhm.
you into this sense of like he's Hannibal and he's attractive and he's whatever. And it's like, please remember that the Hannibal in the books would bite you in the face. He ate the nurse's tongue out of her jaw
Yep.
while she was still alive. Like, he's underneath this suit, he's a creature, right?
And
And
his
it just
pulse
so
isn't
happened.
changing. You know, it
and, in,
stays slow
and
the whole time. That's
right. And this creature just happened to fall in love with Will Graham.
mhm. Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously it's first nature to him for his pulse not to race out while he's doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
He's doing stuff like, you know, when a wolf pack goes out to hunt. They don't
mm-hmm.
have to think about what they're doing. They're going out to get their food. And whether he's getting something to eat or he's seeking revenge on someone, it doesn't matter because it's like instinctual to him.
Right.
So
And
it doesn't rattle his cage. He's just like, okay, time for me to go kill this guy. You know, he was rude. He parked in my fucking parking spot. You know, he's done. I'm gonna put his license plate down on my Rolodex and look him up later. You know, he's like,
that's one of the reasons that I so badly want a season 4 because I just want to think about all these ways that people could possibly offend Hannibal Lecter. So then they get like parking in his parking spot, cutting him in line.
ooh,
Can you imagine the idiot that would try to road rage Hannibal Lecter?
over seasoning a piece of meat.
Oh, there's that. Being rude to the waitress at a restaurant. Oh no. Like it's just it's a nice like it's sort of a cleansing thing that when like when you see things all around you that piss you off a little bit to just kind of think, "Oh, I'm just going to think for a minute what Hannibal would do to these people." And then you can kind of let that go. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like in the current political climate here in the United States, sometimes when things get really bad, I just think about what would Hannibal do? And then I can kind of go on.
I think there's quite a few that he'd dispose of and wouldn't even try to eat.
No, God, there's some people that I'm pretty sure he wouldn't sully his taste buds
Yeah.
with. But anyway,
It tastes like
um,
circus peanuts and the tears of a thousand angels.
I want you to know that I absolutely hate circus peanuts. I
They
hate circus peanuts. It's like they're just styrofoam pellets with like somebody put peach colored carob on top of them or something. It's they
you
taste
know,
like it's like crayons and styrofoam had a baby.
yeah, it's sort of like it's not chewy like silly putty, but it's like foam. It's sort of like a B grade flip flop.
That's what it is.
It actually I had one of those weird things. I'm really good. I before I when I first started going into kitchens, I already had I'm a natural chef. I went to school for it, but I'm a natural. And even Glenn will sit there and look at me and I'm like, "Ooh, that smells like something tastes or that tastes like such and such smell." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No, seriously. We had industrial fly spray in one of the restaurants I worked at that smelled just like circus peanuts taste." And it used to freak me out. And one by one, I had people that I'd convert to it. And I'm like, that stuff smells like circus peanuts. And they're like, whoa, it does. You know, they're smelling it. But I could see
Mhm.
Hannibal being hypersensitive to circus
Well,
peanuts.
what you're describing is synesthesia. So I think to a certain
Hmm.
extent you have synesthesia, and like I
Oh,
have
I'm
the same
sure.
thing with with like mint. Like if I eat mint, I'm like, mint tastes fuzzy. It's a
Hmm.
fuzzy taste, right? And so I would not be surprised if Hannibal has synesthesia as well.
That would make a lot of sense.
Anyway, it would. All right,
Hmm.
we are over our limit here. We could talk about
Okay.
things all day long, but we need to
Yes.
go ahead and start wrapping this up. I want to thank Natasha for being my guest. And Natasha, do you have any socials you want to share with people?
Sure. I am out of the spell on Twitter. I'll hold my X up, but I'm out of the spell on there. It's that's my handle, and I go under Natasha. Blue Sky is my cheekier one. It's under Alma Mickle Center. Um, and then Instagram, I'm under Sweetle Red. So that's my artsy account. So if you're into any type of arts, if you're into films, if you're into photography, if you're into really cool music, even if you just want to follow or someone to share stuff, then please hit me up there. My TikTok account is pretty crazy. That's Mads Mikkel Center. So yeah, I switched my name up not to hide from people, but my separate accounts are separate things. So,
Right.
and you don't want my
Yeah.
Facebook. I'm too much of a bitter petty bitch on there.
Yeah,
I
no,
can't
you
deal
got
with it.
different
So
different
yeah.
foci for different accounts. Well, if you guys are looking for me, I am at Sahaya74 on Blue Sky. I am Sahaya the Fannibal on Instagram. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Um, I want to preview for you guys the next episode, episode 39. I am going to have a new guest, and we are going to start talking about new characters of season 2. We're going to be starting with Miriam Lass. Miriam Lass was actually in season 1, but only in flashback, so I decided to save her until season 2. So I will have a new Fannibal guest in episode 39 to talk about Miriam Lass. I want to say to all my Fannibals, my Fannibal family out there, I love you. I hope you guys are doing well. If you ever need any help, please make sure to reach out to a Fannibal if you need someone to talk to. We're always here for each other. If Bryan is listening or watching, I want to say, hi, Bryan. I love you.
Hi. I love you too.
um, and I think the voting for the Fangoria Awards has closed. I think it closed yesterday, but yeah, everybody cross your fingers for Bryan and Dust Bunny to win a lot of awards for the Fangoria Awards, which I believe are happening in October.
Yes.
Anyway, so that is the end of our discussion of Hannigram in season 2. And I just want to remind all of you guys, like I have many times before, remember, it is fine to be weird because all the best people are. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.